All right, hey people, Russ Jensen. It's about 7:30 p.m. on the 14th of December 2016 here in Salt Lake City, Utah. Now, we're talking about right of necessity, our right to remain from a primitive state of communion, our rights of individuals to engage in personal worship and to be able to utilize certain substances, engage in certain activities um, uh, to meet our indispensable obligations. One of those might be the use of substances that might be considered or have been designated as unlawful, illegal by certain individuals in government, uh, which they didn't have permission, don't have authority to do some of those things that they've been doing. Now, we'll talk a little bit today also about a lot of the acts that they've done, that they're engaged in, that kind of come across as just business as usual with you don't really understanding what's happening, why it is that they're able to do to you all the things they're able to do to you and me and people out here in society. Okay? You know, you read this book, Law of Nations, you understand that, societies are created, governments are created for mutual safety and benefit. People come together, we create a society so we can operate in it. We give authority to a another group of people, because that's all there is just people, to do certain things on our behalf, to do certain things that we can't do or shouldn't be doing, like, oh, we're not taking the law into our own hands. Okay, somebody, uh, road rage is a big thing too these days. Somebody cuts us off. You don't have permission to force them off the road and go over and just do to them what we will. Okay, that's what law enforcement's for. That's what law is supposed to be about. Now, in one of the other segments, not in this one though, but we'll talk about the difference between law and rules, regulations, and statutes, which have the force of law but are not law. They're prima facie. You know, but so we're getting down to the time now where we start thinking about how we're going to start utilizing some of this information that we know about our governance, about our status as individuals, the fact that we are the true sovereign authorities, that the sovereigns, which are the people that sit in the offices of sovereignty, and sovereignty is just the governmental structure that's created by your Constitution here in the United States of America. And most other uh, countries have something similar. Um, and you'll notice too, if you're reading this book, Law of Nations, like you're supposed to be doing, that there's a lot of language in that book that's very similar to language you find in that document, the Declaration of Independence, where they're talking about dissolving political bonds. Right? They're talking about the government comes destructive to the ends of laws, destructive to the ends of laws of nature and of nature's God that they're entitled to, the decent respect to the opinions of mankind. Talk about this the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute new government. Now, we're not talking about instituting a new government or abolishing it. We're talking about reclaiming control of the governance, educating people properly as to what the proper role of government is, what it should be, and utilizing these things now so that we can engage in the kind of activities as individuals, conscious awareness here, having an experience that we're entitled to have. Government is supposed to be protective of those, not destructive. Now, in this book, Law of Nations, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, where it is, it's as much constitutional law as everything else in that document. In fact, more so because it precedes it. If you go to Book 1, Section 30, talks about support of the Constitution, obedience to the laws. The Constitution and the laws of the state are the basis of the public tranquility, the firmest support of political authority, and a security for the liberty of the citizens. This Constitution is a vain phantom, and the best laws are useless if they be not religiously observed. And they should not then to watch them very attentively in order to render them equally respected by those who govern and by the people destined to obey. Now, I'm pretty sure that there's been a lot of fudging when it comes to respecting the laws of that Constitution. Article 4, Section 4 says what? The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. But what all the elected officials, always talking about? Democracy, democracy, democracy. Huh. How is that guaranteeing to me and you and the states out here that we are members of? Because the states don't exist. We're a collective group of people living in a geographical area that's titled Utah. Utah does not exist, except for words on paper, does it? No, it does not. Okay? We're entitled, we're guaranteed a Republican form of government. But I got all these elected officials or people wanting to be in that position talking about what? A democracy. How is that possible? How is that not undermining the authority of that very document? If you go back up in that document a little bit further, back up, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1 talks about what? No state shall enter into treaties, alliances, confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Well, what I'm primarily talk about there today is the obligation of contracts and impairing that. How it is that they gain jurisdiction over you in your automobile when you're driving down a public street. You think it's because they wrote some ordinance, some law says you can't drive that fast. You're driving too fast. You got to stay in this lane. You got to signal 2 seconds before you make a lane change, merge, all that bullshit. Huh? You think that's how they're doing it? Because if you are naive. Okay? They're doing it because they have impaired the obligation of contracts. They have, through subterfuge, through lying, through outright theft, interjected themselves as a state corporate body between you and the actual manufacturer of that particular vehicle, that automobile. You got to be careful of the words you use because they've that specific definitions to those. They're not the same thing what you think they are. Okay? And done what? They've gained themselves legal title. You have equitable or beneficial title. You have title of use. Why do you think you get a certificate of title? Huh? You don't get the actual manufacturer statement of origin, do you? No, you don't. They have impaired the obligation of a contract. Probably the other reason, too, they won't tell you also why it is that they are able to do a lot of surveillance they do on people and have been doing egregiously for a lot longer than what you people think. They came out with Snowden. Okay? We think the primary purpose that the Social Security Act was for them to gain more money, get a windfall that they can use in all these services that they can just kind of dip into and hide and all that stuff. Bullshit. If you read the Social Security Act, it's going to tell you very specifically it is for the use of Social Security Administration personnel only, and do anything otherwise, any other use is criminal. In fact, the only person that can utilize the Social Security number is an officer of that particular administration, becomes a public officer of the federal government. You're now impersonating a federal officer in violation of federal law and get you under Title 18 or grand theft. They don't show you that, but that's what they talk to their people about in their grand jury indictments. That's how they're doing it, people. You're in violation by utilizing a number that doesn't belong to you. You put on your, now that all the states are requiring it too. Social Security number to get a driver's license. So you put that number down on, you're now in violation of federal law, in violation of state law also. Okay? You're a criminal. Criminals don't have a lot of the so-called constitutional protection. Well, they're supposed to, but they don't. Okay? That opens up all kinds of doors for them to do all kinds of things to us, which we've done. Their biggest problem, they've done it under subterfuge. They have lied. They have forgotten about the primary tenets, a primary principle. The absolute number one law that operates on this planet is the law of contracts and agreements. and the necessity of full and complete disclosure, a full and complete meeting of the minds. So that's how they're getting us on a lot of these things. They don't tell you that, do they? Of course they don't. Okay? Let's go back up here, back in the book, Law of Nations, Book 1, Section 30. Okay? To attack the Constitution of the state and to violate its laws is a capital crime against society. And if those guilty of it are invested with authority, they add to this crime a perfidious abuse of the powers with which they are entrusted. Okay? The nation ought constantly to repress them with its utmost vigor and vigilance as the importance of the case may require. Okay? You have a duty to help me repress with the utmost vigor and vigilance this criminal group that's seized control of your governance. Your right of necessity allows you to do these things. Your right of necessity to have an honest, open society, an honest, open relationship with those that you have delegated some of your authority to act for you on your behalf. Not to go and lie to you, steal from you, write all this legislative acts that criminalizes everything that you do without telling you that that's what they've done. Almost every single legislative act can be void for vagueness. Another law, maximum of law and a principle that we can talk about, we will talk about when we start building our position. Okay? Now, when those men wrote that document, Declaration of Independence, they had a copy of this book. Now, I put up one of my videos. I took it down, but I'll put it back up again about legitimacy of the law of nations. They had this book. They had it before they wrote and formed the Articles of Confederation. Okay? This book gives us the authority, the permission. It actually gives you the order to maintain control of your governance by being able to resist unlawful criminal acts by those in power. We're not talking about anarchy. We're not talking about destroying anything. We're talking about taking back control of our governance. And we're going to be doing that through the use of the legislative acts, the judiciary, the legal system that we already have on the books. Start applying to these people because they think they have immunity because they're an elected official. They're in the office and they've got all their buddies covering for them, but not any longer. Okay? We're going to be going after them on their accounting practices, going after them on this whole nonsense of democracy, all this nonsense of planes and buildings and all that bullshit that happened on 9/11 that nobody has investigated, that they use as another reason to egregiously violate the Fourth Amendment. Okay? The Fifth and the Sixth also. Okay? They don't have permission to do those kinds of activities, but they have taken that upon themselves, and they've done it with the complicity of other people saying, oh, it's just my job. That didn't work at Nuremberg, people, and it's not going to work now because the other thing we're even talking about, too, is talking about trials for treason for these people. They need to come and help us, or they're going to be put on trial for treason. It has to be that way, people, in order to save this country, to save the United States of America, to save your families, to save the other species on this planet. Now, I'll go back into this book, Law of Nations, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, Book 1, Section 39. It's solely established for the safety and advantage of society. It's evident that men form a political society and submit to laws solely for their own advantage and society. The sovereign authority, which we've already defined what that is, that's the actual governmental organization on paper, is then established only for the common good of all the citizens. And it would be absurd to think that it could change its nature on passing into the hands of a Senate or a monarch. Okay? People always go, oh, sovereign authority, the sovereign king, all that crap. That's what applies to just the old days. No, bullshit. Okay? We live in a aristocratic republic. That's the constitutional definition of what we have here in the United States of America. We have a Senate. Okay? So we continue on reading through this book. We go to section 46, book 1. When the sovereign power is limited and regulated by the fundamental laws of the state, which is what we have, constitutions are fundamental law. That was defined also. Those laws show the sovereignty, the extent and bounds of their power, and the manner in which it is to be exerted. The sovereigns are therefore strictly obliged not only to respect, but also to support them, the Constitution. And the fundamental laws are the plan on which the nation have resolved to labor for the attainment of happiness. Now, people always say life, liberty, and the pursuit of property is what originally Jefferson put in there. No, he did not. Those words were never in there, ever. Because these men were students of this book. The book talks about happiness and your own perfection. That's the entire purpose of life. Government. Now, whether that's right or wrong, doesn't really matter to me. Those are the words that are in the book, that's in the Constitution, that is the supreme law of this land here in the United States of America. Okay? Now, going back here still, book 1, section 46, constitutional law. Remember that the moment the sovereignty deviates from what? Fundamental laws of the state, their commands become unjust and are but a criminal abuse of the power with which they are entrusted. For they, by the virtue of that power that you've delegated to them, are the guardians and defenders of the laws. And while it's their duty to restrain each daring violator of those laws, ought they themselves to trample them being the fundamental laws, underfoot? Of course not. Okay? But that's what they're doing all the time, aren't they? Now, we're not talking about all this. Hey, we have a lot of rules and regulations and things. Modern society is a little complicated sometimes. A lot of things they put in place do a lot of great things, but they have overstepped their bounds in a lot of areas and dealing with individuals' individual rights. Among one of those is cannabis, use of it, medicinally, recreationally, personal worship. Denying me my absolute right of necessity, my absolute use of everything on this planet to meet my indispensable obligations if I see fit, as long as I'm not damaging, doing in private. Okay? I said, a lot of these other things too that they have done. They've interjected themselves, obligation contracts, lied to you about certain things, Social Security. Now, read back to this book, section 51. The nation may curb a tyrant, withdraw itself from his obedience. Now, once again, it's not about because we're upset because we didn't like some little thing that they did. These are about serious, egregious activities, which is why I focus on the massive embezzlement that's going on to the public accounting process. And the massive violation of my naturally occurring indispensable obligations and rights through their prohibition of certain substances, and by their interjecting themselves into contracts where they have no authority to be acting. Marriage is the same thing. That's another one too. In fact, if you're married with the state, you're engaging in polygamy, aren't you? State is the third member, the third spouse. You sure are. Okay? And polyandry, what am I fucking calling it? I don't know. Sorry. But hey, gotta start thinking, people, about what's really happening, what's going on. But we go back to this book. 51's giving us the authority now to resist, withdraw from obedience. The authority of the sovereignty is limited and regulated by the fundamental laws, which it is by your Constitution. On exceeding the bounds prescribed, they command without any right and even without a just title. The nation, which is you and me, not obliged to obey them, but may resist his unjust attempts. As soon as the sovereign attacks the Constitution of the state. He breaks the contract which bound the people to him. The people become free by the act of the sovereign and can no longer view him but as a usurper who would load them with oppression. And isn't that what's happening? Now, have to be very careful here too. I'm not talking about running around and violating, not talking about being civilly disobedient. No, we're talking about utilizing the proper legal processes and using this as our authority to do that, to get these cases heard, because they dismiss them constantly and continually. Why? Because you don't have any authority when you're going in there. Not that you're stating properly. You can't state a federal statute to get standing in a federal court. You can't, not as an individual member out here, because there's no federal citizenship. You are a member of whatever society you happen to be in that geographical area of Utah, California, Nevada, Wisconsin. Okay? And I already did an whole thing on that whole thing too about the difference between United States district courts and district courts of the United States. Okay? One has jurisdiction. One has no jurisdiction at all except for in one particular case, one instance, which is a civil RICO. And that was done intentionally by Congress because they know, and a lot of these things, they know that they, you think these people are so stupid that they're going to run around doing things that actually get them caught? Now, they have done a lot of things that are going to get them caught because it's gone too far. They've gone too long. They've become so arrogant. Believe they're so much in control. No. The truth will come out, always does. We're talking about these cases where we want to do certain things that we absolutely need to do to save our families from these horrible diseases which have been wrought upon us intentionally for the most part. Toxic environments that we've been subjected to, radioactivity, all that open air and open sea nuclear testing. They knew full well what was going to be happening. We have an absolute right to defend ourselves against that. To preserve our lives, preserve the lives of our loved ones through any means necessary. I don't know if any of you have ever been around to some of those cancer wards, especially with those little kids. It's awful. It's horrible. It is absolute torture when there's methods and approaches that are certainly at least have as much efficacy and probably even more in a lot of cases. That might work all the time. But Western medicine doesn't work all the time, does it? But at least it's humane. At least it's an option. Now, that's what this is about, regaining control of your governance, taking it back away from the small criminal group that's been in control for a long time. Okay? Their day is finished, people. Has to be. Now, we'll start talking about a little bit more what we're going to be doing, how we can do that, but we have to keep in mind too, okay? Once again, we're utilizing constitutional law right out of this book, Law of Nations, and it admonishes us there also to do what? Remember the essential end of civil societies, to labor in concert for the common happiness of all. Was it not with this view that every citizen divested himself of his rights and resigned portions of his liberty? Could the society make such use of its authority as irrevocably to surrender itself and all of its members to the discretion of a cruel tyrant? A small group takes these events, creates events, lies about events. Almost every major conflict that's ever been started on this planet was based upon an outright lie. Now that's fact. That's historical fact, people. How much longer are we going to continue to do that? Allow that group. You can't tell me that whole incident on 9/11 multiple airplanes from multiple airports. Wasn't had some help. Come on, eh? Box cutters. Seriously, I'm pretty sure if I was on that plane with my son and a few other people, there would have been some people holding box cutters have been on the ground. Eh? It's a fantasy fairy tale, people. They're using that to do what? Come and violate you even further. They're even watching this video right now, even as I speak, even before it's posted up on the internet. I know that. Okay? Knowledge and truth, that's our tools, people. That's our weapons. Okay? And being able to use their own criminal activity against their lower level minions, the judges, state legislators, or city councilmen, people in the school district that are engaging in embezzlement at a criminal level, provable. The evidence is all there. Nowhere in that Constitution for the United States of America does it give them permission to write a law that makes something that is criminal lawful. Does it? And it certainly doesn't give them any permission to lie to you about anything, because they're commanded to deal honorably and truly. That's a law of nature, which is then becomes a law of nations because it's applied to his sovereign. The problem, people, is us. We've allowed so much to go on for so long. We have been so misinformed, lied to, falsely imprisoned, murdered even, those that have dared to oppose. No, we need governance. We certainly do. We need the rule of law, but we need the real rule of law. Right? Because also in that Constitution of the United States, it designates what your law is for that union, doesn't it? Pretty sure it does. Common law, isn't it? Suits of common law, that's the only law that's recognized constitutionally. Why? Because that's all there is, people. Those are based on torts between men, okay? Violations of contractual agreements. That's it. I won't get all this stuff about regulations and statutes and this and that and the other, which I'll get into another time. Okay? We need to be utilizing this book, people. We can do that. Okay? Now, there's even cases when the injuries are manifest and atrocious, when the sovereign, without any apparent reason, attempts to deprive us of life, those things, the loss of which would render life irksome. Who can dispute our right to resist him? Self-preservation is not only a natural right, an indispensable obligation imposed by nature. No man can entirely and absolutely renounce it. Okay? That comes right out of Book 1, Section 54. Okay? You can be imposed by violence if you decide that's what's proper and necessary for you. Now, I don't believe that that's necessary. I don't think that that's proper. There's enough violence happening already. They've already militarized their police forces. Us average individual walking around society, we don't stand a chance. They cover their people with immunity and all those different things. We have to start engaging back, doing it through the proper channels, the proper methods, with the proper information, and the right foundation of law, which is constitutional law, found Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, Law of Nations, all 4 books, preliminaries, footnotes. Rest of that Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, which they've made federal statute. Getting organized, getting properly educated. I make these videos, nobody watches them, but I'm going to keep making them. It's very discouraging. Even the people that I do have done a lot of stuff for some reason, when they just gloss over and don't want to hear it. I understand. We're fighting against social engineering that's gone on for thousands of years. Okay, but that time period's ended. Okay, that methodology is no longer suitable for the continued expansion of conscious awareness, and that's what you are, people. That's what you are. Okay? When you have a duty to yourself, to your loved ones, to your creator, if you believe in that, okay? Certainly to other members of your society, to understand and know, begin to know what your duties and obligations are, so you can know and understand what your rights are, what you can demand, what you can compel performance from your elected officials. They don't have cover of their office if they're engaging in activities that have been noticed are improper and certainly are criminal. Now, stealing money, taking it off the books, then lying to you about that is criminal, isn't it? Lying to you is criminal, isn't it? Sure is. Violation of constitutional law. Your kids lie to you, ground them all summer, don't you? Huh? Your elected officials lie to you. Oh, well, we can't do anything about it. Oh, poop. Better go down to my dead end job. Drive down the street the same time with everybody else. Huh? Told when I gotta show up, when I go on break with everybody else, come back, do a bit of work, go to lunch with everybody else, come back, do a bit of work, go on break. Okay? Drive home with everybody else on the same road, go home do the same thing. People gotta break out of that. We have got to get out of that. Now, I'm not saying you're not being productive, and I don't mean any disrespect by any of that. Okay? Problem is, we get lulled into a false sense of security, especially here in America where there's so much abundance, without understanding the impacts that we are having on the rest of the planet. Not only the other human beings, men, women, children, but the other species. We have a duty to them also. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Love everybody. I know that nobody's listening to these things. It doesn't really matter what I say or don't say. I'm not going to offend anybody. So, but hopefully somebody will. If I can just get one person to read this book, be impacted by it, to make a change, have some positive outcome. Okay? Maybe they can get somebody else, or 1,000 somebody else, or 1,000,000. Okay? Maybe one of these big internet celebrity type people will pick up on this and, pick up the banner and run with it. That's all I'm asking for. I mean, sure, I'd love to be that. I'd love to have millions of views and all that stuff. But if I only get one view that leads to that for somebody else, hey, that's fantastic. I'm going to keep trying to write this book and, do what I can, a little bit of time I have left. So, all right. Love you.